Good morning. Welcome to the setting work session for August the 4th,
Commissioner, your connection is off.
If you'd like to join the conference, 3.
Detail of his hardwired. Commissioner, your connection is a little bit off. Robin, can you see that the same? Is a little bit off on Commissioner Hutchins' connection? Okay.
Is it?
You can sit here.
You can sit here.
No, I'll go up here. That's, I'm gonna go right up here. Doing this anyway. But of course. What would you like? You have to let the command somebody else. Done this?
Yes, so get that.
I got.
Oh, you got your.
Hutchins brought it. Oh, okay.
That's puppies? What?
For the viewing public, please be patient. We've had some technical difficulties. We'll be starting here in a minute.
We're still rolling, yeah? So everyone's on the. Okay.
Thank you.
Is now joining the conference.
All right. There we go. So good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners Agenda Setting Work Session for August the 4th, 2020. If you'd like to join via conference call, the phone number is 360-252-9020, and the extension is the pin 1234. And by way of introductions, I'm Commissioner John Hutchins, the chair of the board. Also present is Vice Chair Commissioner Ty Menser, and sitting behind me is Commissioner Gary Edwards. We have County Manager Ramiro Chavez, Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell. I see that we have Dr. Dr. A in the house, and Shelley Slaughter, the Director of Public Health and Social Services, and let me see, Mariana Garro, our epidemiologist, Keely Marino, who we come to pretty soon, our housing coordinator, and Linda Hodgkinson, Jeremy Davis, Scott Lindblom, Thomasina. Is that Thomasina?
Tom Webster.
Tom Webster, Craig Sisson, Elizabeth Petrich. Somebody said I got Thomas. Is that really actually Thomasina? No, it isn't. But we'll find out who it is. And Brandon.
Yeah, it is Thomasina.
Oh, it is? Okay. And someone on the phone. So with that, we also have both our PIOs, Megan Porter and Brian Dominique. So with that, we'll start with the COVID-19 update. And Shelley Slaughter.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So the latest data that I have to share with you today, which is as of yesterday by 5 p.m. in Washington State, there have been 58,715 confirmed cases of COVID-19, 1,600 deaths. In Thurston County, we have had 679 confirmed cases of COVID-19, 8 deaths. 56 of those have ever been hospitalized. In the last week, we have had 99 new cases, 1 person from Thurston County has been hospitalized. Unfortunately, we've had 2 deaths. Overall, to date, we have conducted 23,224 COVID-19 tests. The cumulative percent positivity is 2.9%. However, in the last week, that rate is 4.1%. The largest age group continues to be ages 20 to 29 years old, with representing 21% of our total Thurston County cases to date. Our hospital system capacity is currently adequate and has surge capacity, although it is quite full. 3.1% of our licensed beds in Thurston County are occupied currently by COVID-19 positive cases, not necessarily Thurston County residents. PPE is stable at this time. And with that, I will pass it on to Dr. Abdumalik to provide further information.
Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
Morning. So last week, I undertook the difficult decision to recommend distance learning for our schools. So this would include children in grades kindergarten through 12th grade, and would include both private and public institutions of learning. This was undertaken due to the increase in transmission rates that we've seen grow over the past month that I've been here. The first week that I was here, we were seeing approximately 25 cases per week, and now this week has been 99 cases, but we've been having weeks where there have been over 100 cases. This rate of growth in transmission was concerning because where there's significant transmission in the community, that means that teachers and other staff members are more likely to be sick just because that's what's going on in the background, and children are also more likely to be sick. And when people come together, we know that that is that's a place where people can get COVID-19 from each other. We do recognize that there are groups of students that do require specialized learning opportunities, and to that end, we've recommended that those groups of students be cohorted in groups of no greater than 5 with an instructor, provided that all state and local health regulations and guidance are followed to try to help those students get their educational needs met. However, the intent of this recommendation is really to break the cycle of transmission in our community, because once we bring our transmission rates down, that's really going to be the groundwork for us to start a safe return to public life, which would include in-person schooling with appropriate masking, social distancing, hygiene, and other measures. Over the past week, we have seen children test positive for COVID-19, and we've seen 11 cases in the under 12 age group in the past week, and 9 cases in the 12 to 19 age group in the past week. So children are definitely contracting the disease and becoming ill. Overall, in our community, what we're seeing is that we continue to see household spread, meaning that when one member of the household is sick, other members of the household are more likely to be sick, as well as spread within social gatherings. So places where people might not maintain 6 feet of distance or wear a mask. So those are kind of the larger areas in our community where people are getting sick from COVID-19. I know that that as long as we continue to wear masks, continue to social distance, and maintain 6 feet of distance between us and non-household members, as long as we continue to avoid social gatherings, as well as wash our hands, stay home when we're sick, and stay home when we've come into contact with someone who has had COVID-19. I know that we can bring our transmission rates down and really kind of set a really strong framework for a return to safe public life. Thank you.
Doctor, just a point of clarification. Over the last, about 3 days or since your letter went out, I've had more than 2 or 3 people ask me or make a comment, wow, the county's health doctor said we can't go back to school. Schools have to remain closed. And I said, no, there's not an order, it's not a directive, it's not a mandate, it was a recommendation, but it's up to the school superintendents to decide what's gonna happen. I just want the public to hear you say that, please.
Commissioner, you are correct. This is a strong recommendation. It is not an order or a directive at this time.
All right, thank you. Commissioners?
Yes, I have a couple questions.
Okay.
I'm not sure who to address this to, either Shelley or the doctor, but are we seeing the length of time that it takes to get test results back? Is that getting any better?
It is getting better, Commissioner. Our turnaround times are so we actually over the weekend even got 24-hour turnarounds from our state lab, but we're averaging 48 hours, 72 at the outside is what we're seeing.
And just a quick piece on the news that I was trying to figure out was, there's somewhere in some jurisdiction here in the Puget Sound area, they were doing testing, but no ID required. And I was wondering what that was about, if you knew anything about that, because I was thinking, well, if you get a positive, how do you get back in touch with people? How do you do follow-up? Do you either one of you have any information on that?
At our drive-through testing, ID is not required, but people are asked to provide their information so that our disease investigators and contact tracers, as well as the ordering physician, can notify them of their results.
Okay, so we don't verify anything then, is that it? Or we just take everybody's word for it? Is that the deal?
Part of the goal of our community-based testing is to make it as easy as possible. And some people may not have all of their documents or information with them. Our goal is really to identify cases of COVID-19 as quickly as possible. And the test is completely free. Insurance is not required. And so at least for our community-based testing sites, there is not a requirement for ID.
Oh, okay, I just thought they weren't asking. Thank you for that. How many do we have in the hospital now? I think you said there was 31 total in there, but they could be from all around the Puget Sound area, is that right? I'm wondering about how many do we have of our own?
I do not have the number of total Thurston County residents. I do know in the last week, we've had 1 new hospitalization of a Thurston County resident. And as of this morning, just the statistic that 3.1% of licensed bed in both of our hospitals, total 3.1% occupied. Our hospitals have seen increasing numbers of people being hospitalized, and that's true across the state of Washington as well.
But that has a lot to do with elective surgery and stuff, is that right?
Our COVID hospitalizations have increased, but overall, our hospital capacity is close to, I can't remember the exact percentage, so I don't want to quote you the wrong number, but it was close to 80% when I last looked, which is consistent with our typical hospitalization rates for this time of year, where our hospitals in Thurston County typically are very full.
Right, I guess, but I'm trying to clarify for the public, so we don't have any undue fear from the public, that many of those, the vast majority of those hospitalizations are for things other than anything to do with COVID. And so if we needed, they could cancel elective surgery or something and give us plenty of room if we needed. Is that right?
That's correct, sir. Our hospitals have committed to reserving 20% additional surge capacity in case we did have a large increase of COVID-19 hospitalizations in our community. And so that is correct. The majority of hospitalizations are not COVID related. Only 3.1% are.
Okay, thank you very much.
Commissioner Menzer?
Thank you. So this has been obviously a hot topic in the community, and it's a especially hot topic in my household. I have a mom and dad and stepmom who are retired public school teachers. I have a wife who's a kindergarten teacher, and I have 2 children who are in 2 different schools. So everything that happens with the schools is a constant point of conversation in my house. And so I was really, there was a passage in your letter that I think kind of hit the nail on the head. We were concerned because whatever the schools were going to be struggling with to try to keep safe, I had basically 3 schools worth that was going to be feeding into my household. So the thought that we were going to be able to avoid, the virus seemed pretty remote, frankly, and under what I was hearing were the planning. So, in a way we were relieved. My wife, as a kindergarten teacher, was just not sure how you keep 5-year-old children from putting things in their mouths or maintaining any kind of social, or even putting a mask on. Is just not realistic for 5-year-old children that have never been in school before and don't have a relationship with their teacher yet. So we understand all that. On the flip side, how do you distance teach children? We know how important kindergarten is to there's research showing that kindergarten is absolutely critical to later success in school. And my wife's now stressed out about a different set of things, which is how is she going to establish relationship with her students and give them the building blocks they need, not knowing how long this is going to last in this model. I have a son who's about to start high school. He was at probably too much information, but he was at a magnet program. So he's going to a high school where all of his other friends are not going. So he has no relationships really, and is going to be trying to navigate a freshman year of high school through a computer, which I can't imagine the stress that that's causing. So all of that is being balanced. And I guess my question that I'm leading up to is what, in all the data that we see and that you guys report, what are the data points that the public, and by public, I mean my wife and 2 kids, should be looking at to try to predict where this is headed in terms of, what are you going to be looking for to make a recommendation to have in-person schooling? Is it number of infection rates a week? Is it this positive return rate? Is it number of tests? Like, what are the things that people should be kind of looking at to hopefully see positive trends, and then see that that's going to lead to, maybe a hybrid model for schools or whatever the next step is?
So what I'm looking at is I'm looking at proxy measures for transmission rate within the community. So we're looking at cases per 100,000, and we would be needing to look at them over we're looking at them over likely 2 incubation periods. So over a period of 4 weeks to get a good sense of direction. And it would need to be a difference that's easily recognizable and likely to be sustained, and coupled with a guidance and a relationship with our community, so that we have some assurance that trend, once that's downtrending, that trend would be sustained, even with opening schools to either to hybrid models or other models as appropriate. We would also be looking at what our hospitalization rates are, what our death rates are, what our rate of change is in all of those cases. That's honestly what the decision is based on, is when we're looking at a point in time, if we continue with the measures that we're currently using, what's the likelihood that we will have a safe level of background transmission to keep students and teachers safe? So I would be looking at cases per 100K. I'd be looking at our percent positivity rate of COVID-19 tests. And then we would need to see a significant decrease in rate of infection.
Over, you said, sounds like a 30-day period, basically. You said 2 incubation.
28 days, yeah, 2 incubation periods.
Okay, great. Well, I mean, I just want, that's really helpful because, you know, obviously every day we get, okay, there's only 2 cases. All right, positive direction. Okay, I mean, you know, it's like, if it's working, you don't really want to change. And so I think there's a lot of confusion from people. It's like, what does the science tell us about what's going to allow us to turn a dial, so to speak, safely? So I appreciate that, like, additional information.
But I do want to say we would need to see a significant change and a sustained change over that period. So 4 weeks would be the minimum, but if we're seeing bumps or, you know, it's not do you know what I mean? If it's not a clear trend, then the decision may take longer. It really depends on what's happening locally here in Thurston County.
One other question. In some of the stuff I read, you know, obviously childcare with this decision is a huge issue. And I seem to remember seeing that you were involved in something regarding like some planning or some advising or some regarding childcare. I wanted to ask you, I think you're involved in something, and I appreciate it. And I was hoping you could maybe elaborate on what that is.
Because this decision comes from wanting to keep children and families safe, we are going to need a comprehensive approach to include, you know, childcare, daycares, camps, sports, all of the other places where children get their care. And so this week is really we're having meetings with different groups, and we're trying to clarify the guidance that we give each of these groups to help keep all children safe when they're not in school. So anytime they come into contact with other staff and other children.
Is that working with the school districts on that, or who's involved in what you're talking about?
So we're working with the day camps, we're working with day cares. We continue to work and partner with our school districts, and we're working with our private schools as well.
Thank you.
My question for, I imagine, Shelley, and that is looking at the data, and we had in the first week of July, we had a spike up to 80, second week, a spike of 107, the third week to 93, and then within the last week, 99. And so my questions are, number one, we're hearing nationally that COVID is hitting urban as well as rural. So number one, is that the same in Thurston County? And number two, it's the age is dropping or plummeting down, hitting toddlers and adolescents as well as kids. And so it was pointed out a week or two ago that the trend had been, this was, part of the spike was because of backyard barbecues and baseball tournaments. Is that still what we're hearing from the contact tracers?
So to answer your questions, Commissioner Hutchings, we have seen COVID-19 cases increase in virtually all of our zip codes in Thurston County over the last week. So I think your assessment is accurate. We are seeing this in both urban and rural areas in Thurston County, and that is true across the state of Washington as well. In terms of cases of kids, yes, we continue to see the largest percentage of our Thurston County cases are under 29. Dr. Abdimalik shared a couple of statistics regarding children in the last week. 13% of our cases to date are under 19 years old. We are seeing youth and young adults attending social gatherings and other things that could be contributing to this. I think that is true nationwide as well. So it's a trend that everyone is concerned about, and we want to encourage youth and young adults, especially that COVID-19 can happen to them and it can spread to our higher risk, more vulnerable populations. And it's so important to both physically distance by at least 6 feet and wear a face covering whenever you're around someone else outside your household family.
Thank you. Anything else, commissioners? Nope. All right, Shelley, thank you. Dr. A, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now we're going to turn to Keely Marino, our houseless homing counselor, or counselor. Go ahead, coordinator.
What am I doing?
Just about everything, Keely. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Keely
We were
Marino.
just upgraded to a counselor.
Oh, hey,
That's
that master's degree paid off. Good morning, Commissioners. Keely
Good
Marino,
morning.
Thurston County Public Health and Social Services. I was thinking this morning, what am I going to report on? And then I have a list of about 8 items. So I'll go through them pretty quickly. Commissioner Hutchings and myself was able to have the privilege of meeting with the new captain at Salvation Army this past week with Keith Staley and Teal Russell from the city of Olympia. It was a great opportunity to make connections with an incredibly important service provider in our homeless crisis response system. He did give us an update that they will continue to operate their 24/7 COVID emergency shelter for approximately 2 more months. And then they are aiming to change their operations to more of a case management program. So they will no longer be offering emergency sheltering at that point. And again, reiterated that they were declining the invitation to be the cold weather shelter provider this year, but they are going to be working on more of a transitional housing program. So it was good to have some clarity on what exactly the Salvation Army is planning to do in the near future. And then the Hazardous Weather Task Force will be working on adjusting how we assure that folks will have a place to go during the cold weather season. I talked with Teal Russell this morning, and they are again issuing a 72-hour cleanup notice to the folks at Ensign Road. So she's going out with code enforcement this morning. She's also heard from the Department of Enterprise Services around the Chutes Parkway, where there are a number of RVs that are still parked along that roadway. And construction on that roadway will begin in approximately 1 month. And so those vehicles and RVs where people are living will be asked to move. And so that's something to just keep in mind in terms of where they might end up. There's a new container shelter and hygiene trailer that is going into the mitigation site tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And those are the Connex containers that have been transformed into either shelter box, essentially, so 2 to 3 room shelter in a container, and then a hygiene trailer that houses 3 shower rooms, 1 being ADA accessible. And on that note, the hygiene trailer that the county is working with Lot on having placed at First Christian Church is scheduled to be delivered, we believe, next week. We're just waiting on some permitting clarifications from the city of Olympia. So that's exciting. First Christian Church will have a hygiene trailer so folks can take showers in the New Hope community and in Interfaith Works emergency overnight shelter. The Build-A-Bus program has officially begun operations. So they are offering showers Tuesdays and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Evergreen Christian Church. They are taking appointments. So there's a phone number to call. I don't have that phone number readily available, but I can find it for individuals who would like to access those showers. They would call that number and get on a list to ensure safe physical distancing during operation hours. So they're working on finding volunteers, and they're looking for some more secure funding through the city of Olympia. Thurston County is funding initially some of those activities through the hygiene contract that we have with the city of Olympia. As far as I understand, Rosie's Place young adult shelter remains closed for 1 more week due to 1 positive case associated with that program. And as I understand, there have been no more positive cases from that community of folks. And I was present at the testing event, the pop-up testing event at Rosie's Place last Tuesday, and there were at least 30 staff who were tested and probably about 20 young people who tested. And we have, as far as I understand, no positive, further positive cases have come from that situation.
That's great news.
That's very good.
Yeah. So I know that it's on everybody's mind, and I know that Tom Webster is also here on this call, but the eviction rent assistance program is rolling out here shortly. We are in communication with Community Action Council of Lewis, Mason, and Thurston, who will be our primary contractor, who will be subcontracting with other agencies throughout Thurston County to ensure anyone who is eligible for that program will be able to access those funds. We are in the process of figuring out marketing and timing. So we're hoping that we can have a hard date as soon as possible. I know that there is a lot of interest. We're getting emails and phone calls are happening to both the Community Action Council and to our office. And we'd like to assure everyone that we will have a firm date of when you can call and get access to those dollars. We do not have that yet, but it will be happening in the next couple of weeks. 5% of those funds, of course, go to by and for agencies. And what that means is a program that is operated by a particular population for that particular population. So Stonewall Youth is run by LGBTQ individuals, and it serves in LGBTQ individuals. So they would be considered a by and for agency. Every commerce contract that is coming to us has a heavy emphasis in racial equity and ensuring that people who are disproportionately represented in the homeless crisis response system are being equitably served. So every contract coming through. So we're really working with our partners on making sure that we do this in a thoughtful way and in a meaningful way to meet the needs of the population as well as the Department of Commerce.
Kaylee, you mentioned that rent assistance money is, and the paper reports $100 million to be distributed around the counties of the state. What will be Thurston County's amount?
My understanding is that in total, it's $3.1 million. 10% of that, though, will be going directly to community youth services to serve youth and young adults. And that contract will be monitored through the Office of Homeless Youth, whereas the remainder will be contracted through the Housing Assistance Unit.
And we'll review that item in more detail when we review the agenda this morning.
All right, good, thank you. I have more questions, but I'll start with my seatmates. Commissioner Menser, anything?
That was a good list there of stuff. When you were talking about the Deschutes RVs and something about moving because of construction, I missed that. What's being constructed? What's that?
So it's on the Department of Enterprise Services property. So it's part of the roadway. So there's something I'm not clear. Yeah, it's road work. And,
Okay.
and so those vehicles will be asked to move.
Got it. That's it for me. Thanks.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, I'm good, thank you.
First I want to ask the Connex trailers that have been converted, are those Mike Otterer, his construction company doing that?
Yes, that is Olympic Construction Company, and Mike Otterer being the owner and operator.
Very good, very good. Yeah, I've been hyping that for a while. I'm glad to see that's happening. And the hygiene trailer, is that the one received from Port of Olympia on a grant?
Through Lot.
Lot.
Well, through Lot, that's right, not Port of Olympia, Lot. It was Lot. Thank you very much. It's been quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, I don't know if you're hearing, but I'm hearing from community members about opening the Thurston County Fairgrounds to these folks as well. And I don't know if, I'm not going to opine on that. I just want to hear, are you hearing or receiving that kind of constituency input?
I mostly get that question from service providers when we're trying to problem solve around the cold weather season. And then we repeat what has been said here at the Board of County Commissioners in terms of use and operation that is already pre-planned. And so it's not necessarily on the table right now as an option, but I haven't heard from community members yet.
Okay, well, I had a lengthy, heartfelt, and robust conversation with Charles Chelan yesterday afternoon. And it was, I mean, it was all upbeat and positive. And so I just didn't know if you're hearing any of that feedback. But so thank you for that. That's Keely Marino, our homeless coordinator. Got it right. Thank you, Keely.
Thank you, Kelly.
Next, we're going to review the Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for this afternoon, August the 4th. And at the end of this Board of County Commissioners meeting this afternoon, we have a public hearing, and it's regarding the development on floodplains. And so Community Planning, Economic Development will be putting that on, and we'll be here at 3 p.m., right about there, for the public hearing. But we'll call our meeting to order this afternoon at 2 o'clock with the Pledge of Allegiance being led by Commissioner Edwards, and then approval of the agenda for this afternoon and the board meeting minutes from July 28th and 29th of 2020, and then an opportunity for the public to address the board. Romero, have you any indications of what might be coming?
Yes, you will probably be receiving some public testimony related to the amended budget amendment number 4. Yeah.
Okay. Commissioners, any idea what might be coming in public comment? Nope. Okay. Then we have agenda item number 2, the county manager's update. You have any follow-up?
I don't have any follow-up. Last week, you received public testimony from Mr. Pettit related to the budget amendment number 4. He has follow-up with additional information for your consideration, which I will touch base later today during the public testimony.
All righty. That takes us to agenda item number 3, the consent items. We have consent items A and B. And the first one is the Sheriff's Office Electronic Commissary Services Contract.
Thank you, Commissioners. You reviewed this item last week. The Sheriff's Office is requesting Board of County Commissioners to authorize the Sheriff or his designee to sign a contract to replace the current process, which is a manual process in which the inmates make orders in the commissary facilities. This particular outfit will allow for an electronic ordering of commissary. It will increase the efficiency within the Sheriff's Office, eliminating manual ordering as well as the manual entry during using spreadsheets. It also will eliminate potential errors along the manual transfer. There's really not an impact to the budget, and the Sheriff's Office is requesting you approve this contract with Summit Food Services, LLC.
All right. Questions, Commissioner Edwards, or comment?
No.
Commissioner Menser?
Ramiro, I missed your comment regarding budget impact.
There is not impact to the budget.
Okay.
Got it. 3B is the auditor's financial services report, the voucher list. And I have no questions or comments. Do you, Commissioner Menser?
No.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Wow, good. We're moving on to department items. Number 4 is the Sheriff. 4A, request for proposal for inmate anger management, DV, and that's domestic violence, and female offender services for the correctional facility.
Yeah, you also reviewed this item last week, Commissioners, and this is related to secure a request for proposals to provide anger management, domestic violence, and female offender services in our corrections facility or jail. And you had a couple of questions last week that I'd like to follow up on that. I believe I answered those, but just to make sure the public follows up on the answers you requested last week is what is the funding source in which this contract will be paid for? And is 100% covered by the treatment sales tax? And also you had a question in terms of how much the 2020 contract, considering that the request for proposals is going to be for 2021. And in 2020 is $47,913. So they expect the new contract in 2021 will be about $50,000, and that is already included in the budget. Just want to make sure that I follow up with those 2 questions that you had.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Edwards, any questions?
No, sir.
Commissioner Menser?
No.
Good, all right, and that's ongoing training, it's just renewing the contract. 4B is a SRO, School Resource Officer contract with Rochester School District for a three-year, 4-year period.
Yeah, these two items are related. You have, in fact, a couple of discussions related to the resource officers. The first item 4B, is with the Rochester School District for $95,000 a year, and this is for a 3-year period in which the Rochester School District asked for the school years between 2020, 2021, 21-22, and 22-23. And item 4C is for the same services with the City of Rainier, and this is only for $40,000, and this contract goes for only 1 year, the school year, which is the 2020-2021. During the initial conversations, Commissioner Menser reached out to the school superintendents. As a result of the conversation, Commissioner Menser brought this to your attention last week. That perhaps they need to meet a new requirement that takes effect, I believe, this year, and this is related to RCW 28A.320.124. The board also last week requested that perhaps be added on the contract with both a school district. It is an intent to meet all the requirements of this new RCW. In those the contract language has been added. I have been already coordinated with the Sheriff's Office, and the additional language and requirement will be included on the new contracts if the board wishes to approve those two contracts.
All right, any questions from Commissioner Menser or comment?
No, appreciate that. Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
All right, let's take care of 4B and C. Moving on to agenda item number 5, Public Works, a contract award for overlay program.
Thank you, Commissioners. Maybe you may recall 3-4 weeks ago, you authorized the Department of Public Works to receive bids for the 2020 overlay program. On July 29th, the department received 5 bids related to this particular project. The low bidder is Granite Construction Company of Olympia, Washington, in the amount of $487,880. Just to give a perspective on that number, the engineer's estimate was $575,000. So the low bid came under the engineer's estimate, which is a good thing. Also, the department is requesting for you to consider authorizing the Public Works Director to sign the contract with Granite Construction with an additional 10% to cover any unexpected issues during construction. That will be a total aggregate amount of $536,088. This amount is already included on the budget and is covered by the road fund. This particular overlay program will overlay the segments of 153rd Avenue Southeast from Vale Road Southeast to Lawrence Lake Southeast. And they will be utilizing a new technology, which is the fiber reinforced asphalt. The total project length is about 1.6 miles.
County Manager, Hutch, could I have a question?
Yeah, are you done?
I couldn't hear what you said towards the end.
Oh,
Okay.
That some kind of technology you referred
Yes,
to.
they're going to be using a fiber reinforced asphalt.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, and that is intended to be, the life expectancy of that new technology is 15 years.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, can you hear me okay on Robin, Scott?
I can.
Okay, just want to make
any
sure.
other questions or comments?
No, sir.
Commissioner Menser, anything?
No.
And Scott Lindblom is here to answer any questions, by the way.
Well, you skated, Scott. No questions.
All right, great. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, sir. That takes us to agenda item number 6, Community Planning Economic Development Contract with Cascade Drilling.
You also reviewed those two items last week, Commissioners, and item 6A and 6B are related. Let me begin with item 6B, which is a new local agreement with the Department of Natural Resources to receive a grant for for $28,400. And that will be specifically to address the needs of monitoring wells across the county. And item 6A is to issue the contract with Cascade Drilling for a total cost of $55,810. So this contract uses the grant of $28,400, and the remainder, which is $27,417, will be by the stormwater utility. This particular project will drill 5 new wells, will repair 6 wells, and will decommission 5 damaged wells across the county. You asked questions of Kevin Hansen last week, and he is also available to answer any questions that you may have. And again, the first item, item 6A, is for you to consider approving the contract with Cascade Drilling Incorporated for a total cost of $55,810. And item 6B is for you to get into a local agreement with the Department of Natural Resources to receive a grant of $28,400.
Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning.
Hang on, let's see what's coming at you.
I do not have any questions. He did a good job explaining this last week.
Wow. Commissioner Menser? Touchdown, you're done.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin.
Bye
That
for now.
takes to item number 7 on the agenda, adopt amendment number 4 for the 2019-2020 biennial budget. And I see hot up the press letter that came in.
Yep, and this is, I think we're going to spend a little time on this, Commissioners. This item obviously was not in your agenda last week, but I believe this is an item that you were expecting, and based on the sequence of events. Related to this particular item, we need to advertise this meeting, which we did in the last 2 weeks, as required by law. So that's this proposal for you today. If you wish to move this item to a different date, then we need to go to another 2-week public meeting notice as required by law. So I have a couple of items for you, but I'm going to let Robin walk you through if you like. If not, I can dive into some of the details that I have.
So we've reviewed this item many times, but just at a very high level, this is budget amendment number 4 for this biennium. And the main 2 parts are to add funding that we've received from the state and the feds for COVID-19 response, and to make budget reductions in response to reduced revenues that we're receiving as a result of the pandemic. The resolution you see was drafted and approved by Elizabeth Petrich. And I don't see the attachments in your packet, but attachment A, as we've reviewed, is the appropriation by fund and department. Attachment B is the detailed list item by item of the changes, and attachment C is the changes in position control. Basically the elimination of 6 positions, 7 positions, and a reduction of 1 position to half-time. You have an opportunity during discussion to offer amendments to this resolution, and you have in your packet the 4 amendments that we are currently aware of. Of course, commissioners can offer any amendment during discussion on any motion. So these are the 4 that we're aware of, and we have drafted language for you should you choose to use it. But it is your option to offer other amendments should you so choose. I'd be happy to answer any questions about this resolution.
Commissioner,
No, I think I'll wait for a little bit here till we get through this.
do you have anything to add, Romero?
Yes, I have a significant amount of,
Well, let me ask Commissioner Menzer. Anything, Commissioner Menzer, before Ramon digs in?
I'm just looking at the amendment list, making sure I understand.
if you, I can walk you through in detail after I'm done with my
Perfect.
information.
Yeah, just walk us through what the process needs to be this afternoon for
Yeah, I will do that. So,
getting this all addressed.
Thank you.
ready for me?
Ready for you.
So yesterday in the afternoon, Commissioner Edwards wrote a memo submitted to me. I'd just like to read the bullet points, and a copy of that memorandum is included in your packet. Along the way, I will somewhat respond some of the comments, some of their questions. So let me, for the benefit of the viewing public, let me begin with bullet number 1. And the last whereas on the first page of the draft resolution states, quote, all the combined events results in a financial emergency for Thurston County government and need to revise appropriations to ensure long-term financial stability and close quotes. In question, I question whether this is a true financial emergency that needs to be addressed this late in the 2020 budget cycle. It appears there will be more revenue in 2020 than there was in 2019. We will begin discussions of the 2021 budget in the very near future and will consider priorities further during that time. I will pause on that, and on the copy of the resolution that you have on the last whereas, I believe it has been clarified as to the intent of this resolution. And it reads, whereas all these combined events result in reduced revenue for Thurston County government and a need to revise appropriations to ensure long-term financial stability. Bullet number 2 of Commissioner.
Do you want to discuss on that, or do you want to go through all of them?
No, I just got it.
Okay.
If you have any questions, please stop me.
Well, I just want to ask Commissioner Edwards if that's sufficient.
Well, that was my concern when I wrote this memo to the county manager, that it did not appear to me to be a financial emergency. That's,
So is that sufficient?
as reflected in the resolution.
So that's sufficient?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Commissioner Menzer, anything on that bullet point?
No.
Okay, good, thank you.
Second bullet point states, the Thurston County Assessor has reported new construction revenue of approximately $100 million more than this time in 2019. Additionally, the Thurston County Treasurer has reported property tax collections appear normal. If we are to implement regulatory reforms as suggested by the business communities combined with the sales tax enhancements, parentheses, because of the double bubble effect point of delivery, close parentheses, this will result in additional revenue. I don't have a response. I believe this is a statement that Commissioner Edwards wants to make.
Just my view of the current situation, sir.
So any questions on bullet number 2?
Nothing. Anything on that, Ty? No, okay.
So bullet number 3, the need for adequate public safety is clear from the serious events occurring locally and nationally for COVID-19 riots, breaking out from protests, along with the everyday calls for service. I cannot vote to defund the criminal justice component of county government under these circumstances. The assessor, the treasurer, and the other operations also provide critical services given the 2020 is a presidential election, and the need to keep revenue flowing is even more crucial. So all of these offices can continue to provide these essential services to the citizens. So as a result of that, I follow up with Commissioner Edwards, and I developed for your consideration, an amendment number 3. And I will walk you through the language of that when we get to that point. So in terms of that, that's the gist of amendment number 3 proposal.
Anything on that?
No, sir, just the facts. Great.
Ty, anything on that?
No.
I would just add that without defining it, to use political rhetoric that fan the fashionable political passions by saying defund the criminal justice component, I don't think accurately depicts what we're doing or considering doing. Because this is not about what Seattle, what New York, what all these other major agencies are doing. We're not defunding law enforcement any more than we're defunding any other agency or department or office when it comes to sensible reductions.
Sir, I do have a comment to follow up, please. I guess we have a different view of what defund means. To me, defund means take financial ability away from those elected officials that are involved in the criminal justice component, for whatever reason, I guess. I'm just stating a fact. If you'll look at attachments A and B, I believe it is, there's a reduction in funding to each one of the entities listed, and that's all I'm referring to.
But I have to jump in and support what Commissioner Hutchings said, that you know the word defund was never used until this recent events, and it has a very specific, I know you read the news and you're keeping up on what all this stuff means. You know it has a very specific meaning about what kind of services we want law enforcement to provide. It's not about budget cutting strategies or anything of the sort. So I agree that to use that word is really trying to achieve some kind of political directive that has nothing to do with what this board is trying to accomplish in being fiscally responsible and managing its budget. So I echo that concern of misuse, in my opinion, of terminology.
You mind if I comment on that?
Yeah, I would say, I don't have a concern with it. It's just, I'm pointing it out. It's rhetoric and the term as it's being used nationally today. But go ahead.
Well, it was just maybe shorter than saying reducing funding to those entities. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
I just used I guess a common term everybody might recognize. That's all, because reducing funding, defunding, I mean, yes, I hadn't heard it either until recently.
Okay, continue, please.
Bullet number 4, to provide clarity on the items presented, can all revenue items be combined into one list of review purposes? Can the same be done for all proposed reduction items? I followed up with Commissioner Edwards and I provided a report that I believe addresses concern, and that was a report that has been provided to the board in past briefings.
Okay.
Bullet number 5. Could all funds be returned to the general fund from projects on hold and be used to supplement potential revenue losses? Parentheses for IE, $177,000 for the postpone of the new courthouse initiative, $250,000 for a new roof for the courthouse complex building. 2 elements on that: the $177,000 for the postpone new courthouse has already been moved back into the general fund because that was directly on the general fund. The $250,000 for the roof of the courthouse complex, that is part of the buildings reserve, and unfortunately at this point, since this is committed, cannot be moved into next year. And I believe the conversation in the past has been, if the board wants to reduce the contributions to internal services related to building reserves, that can be done in the future, but not retroactively.
So the courthouse issue, I'm sorry, the courthouse roof, that's been dealt with. And the $177,000 for postponement of the new courthouse initiative, unanimously, we killed that in March.
Yeah, and that has already been
It's already
added.
been allocated.
They're being added on your.
Okay. Anything further on that one?
Yes, sir. I guess the intent of that statement was only using those 2 as examples, asking that if we have any funds available that have been set aside for projects, I don't know, we've got something going on. I don't think we've came to a conclusion on what's going to happen at the jail yet. So is there money there that has been aside? I'm just using it as, those 2 were just examples, and I'm sure there are many throughout the county. I just want to make sure that I recoup those dollars and see if we can't help with our financial situation, utilizing those dollars. That's all I'm referring to there.
So anyway, there's a project where money has been put on hold?
Roll it back
Roll
into the
back.
general fund so that we will be more solvent, that's all.
Commissioner Menser, any questions or comments?
No.
Okay. Romero, is that being addressed, or did you address that with Commissioner Edwards?
The,
other
related to the flex unit, as you may recall, that was funded by the real estate excise tax 1. And although you put a pause, the board put a pause on that project, and we cannot bring back a real estate excise tax 1 revenue to supplement general government on the general fund. So that that cannot be done. I'm just related to the jail.
Okay, well, for you or Robin, are there other projects?
Again, I guess I'm just using those as examples that I could happen to remember right off the top of my head. I think there's many others. I'm just asking that staff review those type of issues to see if we can't.
Are there others on pause that can be reverted back to general fund? Robin, do you know?
So there is a state law that once the board puts money into a reserve type fund, that the money must be used for the purposes stated in the fund unless there is a vote by the majority of the electors of the county at a general or special election to allow other uses of the money. So once you put the money in, you cannot take it back out, but you can reduce future contributions to the fund.
To a reserve fund, but these other items
Right.
have not been put into a reserve fund, have they?
So anything coming out of the building reserve, all of your projects in the building reserve fund are in a reserve fund, and the same with the ER&R reserve
Okay,
and other reserves in the county.
thank you. Commissioner Menser?
We did have a discussion, and I think this goes to Commissioner Edwards' point about the how we were going to handle like positions that we vacated and making sure that money was reduced appropriately and then available for reallocation to other purposes. And I think that's getting to the concern that he's raising, which I raised too. I was the one that wanted to make sure we were approaching things that way. So there are a few things that we did that don't relate to special funds that we are sort of bringing it back, and the election is an example, and I think some of the positions' salaries were an example. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe that's right. That's all I'm asking is for
Yes,
a review.
that money was never moved out of the general fund.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Romero.
So flipping the page number 2, sorry, page number 2, bullet number 6. States page 4, attachment A of the draft resolution shows elimination of 2 deputies for the sheriff's office and 2 deputies for the sheriff's corrections division. During the discussion on July 31st, commissioners asked for confirmation that there will be no reductions in deputy sheriffs. Period. I believe Robin Campbell stated that this was correct. Could you please provide clarification on this issue? So since the question was directed to me, I did follow up briefly with Commissioner Edwards on this report. In this report, it was is stated General Fund Department decisions of July 8, 2020.
Ramiro, I'd stop you. I'm lost, and I don't have attachments that I can find. I'm not sure what we're reading from, and I don't want to.
Those attachments were provided to you last Friday, and also they're attached online. So there's all the attachments that we give you in the packet, but I can make a copy if you like this morning to follow suit.
I believe Amy's
Because I was
got
looking
it.
for the same attachment.
The clerk of the board has it
Yeah.
right there. She's going to deliver it too.
Thank you.
And what I believe the page 4 of the attachment A, Commissioner Edwards refer is to the
Oh, yeah.
is to the statements from the sheriff's office.
Okay, yeah, I looked at these last week. Now, tell me where you're at again. Page 4 of attachment A.
Yeah, that's what that's what his letter states. And I believe is on your packet is attachment, yeah, attachment 4. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay.
Got it.
So he asked, could you please provide clarification on this issue? And I believe the question was asked whether the sheriff's office was reduced in budget, not necessarily reduced on sheriff deputies. So the way we provided, I believe Robin and myself, was using this report that was provided to you. They can label as general fund by department decisions as of July 8, 2020. And I use the line item labeled as sheriff law enforcement. And at the first column says 2020 expenditure, which is thus the expenditure approved in 2020 budget as of January 1st, 2020. That line item has a number of $20,753,967. If you follow that line, amendment number 3 increases that line item by $785,748. Following to the right, the ER reductions is $268,767, and that is not a reduction in personnel. That's a contribution to the ER&R, which is equipment replacement. And the reduction the U.S. to all the offices and departments affected by the general fund, and this line item is $207,540. With all that, if the total adjustments for the sheriff law enforcement is $21,067,408, about $300,000 plus. From January 1st, 2020. And I believe we answer on those terms. So the attachment number 4 in Commissioner Edwards' letter, that is how the sheriff has chosen to address the reduction of the $207,540 is by reducing 2 sheriff deputies. I believe that is not what the board has asked them to do. So that's how I stop there.
Okay. Anything to supplement that with?
Yes.
Edwards?
Okay. The bottom line is that although maybe there's some more, there's another few dollars added in, the reality is that there are 4 deputy sheriffs being cut because there's not enough money to pay them. And so to me, that's a cut. You can call it defunding, reduced funding, whatever you want, but the end product is it's costing 4 deputy sheriffs at a time that I feel we should not be making reductions to deputy sheriffs or others in the criminal justice component.
Commissioner Benser, before I go?
No, I have nothing.
Okay.
I understand. I understand what's going on.
Going back in history, we were looking at a 10%, 15%, 10%, whatever percent reduction across the board for everybody. And at that time, several months ago, or a few months ago, Sheriff Snaza proposed eliminating 2 unfilled, there were vacant sheriff deputies and 2 unfilled correction deputy positions as his contribution to reducing funding. He didn't even call it, defunding police. He called it reduced funding. And during our discussion in this room then, I thought, well, he's the elected sheriff. He's independent. He knows his budget intimately, as well as Under Sheriff Tim Braniff and Chief Heidi Thompson. They know this. They would have discussed this intimately and in depth before that proposal came with a suggestion that he could reduce his budget by not filling 2 empty or vacant sheriff deputies and 2 corrections officers. And I thought, well, I'll have to defer to the expert. This is what he is offering. Then further in our discussion and our debate and discourse, I changed my mind and said, well, I'm not in any way, shape, or form wanting to unfill 4 spots if they're already understaffed. Even though they're vacant, I didn't want to do that. So as a board, we came up with another option countywide to reduce funding, reduce budget, budget savings. And then it was told by the sheriff and other electeds, we don't have the authority to do that. They wanted the autonomy on how to cut their budget or reduce funding. And so when we said, okay, the sheriff again offered 2 vacant sheriff deputies and 2 vacant corrections officers. So he offered it a second time. And so I took it. I said, okay, he's, like I said in the beginning, he knows what he can do and can't do. He knows what needs to be done. And that's what he offered again. So I don't take that as anything other than his offer to help and be part of the solution as the entire county management and electeds are belt tightening. And so I was respectful and appreciated that, and so I said sure. So that's in my mind, that was the history of this topic of 2 deputies and 2 corrections officers. Somebody want to tell me I'm right or wrong?
Well, I'd like to comment.
Sure, please.
Me too.
I guess what I would point out here, you can call it anything you want, but we didn't give the sheriff enough funding, and he came up with what he was going to have to do to attain that reduction in funding, if that's the term you want to use. That's fine with me. But he did that under duress, and I must commend the sheriff for trying to play team ball. I mean, he just let us know that, hey, with this amount of money, this is the end result, a reduction of 4 deputy sheriffs. So that's the bottom line. If we vote on this, and if this passes, there will be 4 fewer deputy sheriffs available to serve the public, as our needs are obviously increasing on an everyday basis, let alone with the virus and the social unrest. So I just want to point that out. Okay, we won't call it defunding. We'll call it a reduction in funding, but the end result is the same. We're cutting the law enforcement criminal justice component. And when I say criminal justice component, I mean all of the players in the criminal justice component, because one is very dependent on the other. And I did throw in there that, I mean, what are we going to do if we don't have an assessor looking at our tax situation? Well, we need an assessor to participate. We need that treasurer to participate. So it's a general fund component, and you'll see farther down here that we as county commissioners control twice as much budget as the elected officials control. We control about $200 million. I realize a lot of that is dedicated fundings and such, but I feel we're asking the current expense component of the budget, which is 100 million, roughly 100 million, to come up with the cuts, and the commissioner's side of the budget, which is $200 million, we're kind of skating. So that's all I'm referring to here is in the first place, I didn't feel that any of it really developed into a financial emergency because of the revenue sources that seem to be coming in okay. Anyway, that's all I'm trying to do is point out those concerns. So I guess I'll just let it go
Okay.
at that. We'll see what the end result is.
Commissioner Menzer has.
Yes. Commissioner Menzer, go ahead.
I appreciate the recounting the history, because I'd almost forgotten that wrinkle of it, which is that, it bears repeating that the board voted to exempt the sheriff's office from the 2% across the board cut and do an hours cut, which would have preserved every single position in the county. And that's exactly why we did it, even though we knew it wasn't going to be very popular. But it was an attempt to make sure that no services were, no employees lost their job. And there's obviously a service impact, but that we minimize that. And the sheriff didn't want to do that. He pushed back and claimed we didn't have the legal authority to do it, which I disagree, and said that he would rather have us do a reduction in appropriation and let him decide how to do it. So out of respect, we did exactly what he asked. And if he came up with this plan for cutting 4 deputies, that's not on us, that's on him, because we had an alternative plan that would have not had that result. So that's useful to understand in terms of how I'm approaching this and how I view this particular issue.
Comment on that, sir?
Sure, yeah.
I guess just to follow up on that, more than that particular issue brought forward by Commissioner Mentzer, another piece of that puzzle was that we negotiate with many bargaining units in the county, and some of the bargaining units did not have provisions in there to be handled the same as others. And that created quite an unfairness, and I believe that too was a big portion of why we made the change. So although I have to say I voted against that initial move of reduction of 10% because of the unfairness.
Yeah, I just want to remind the board members that that type of discussion was discussed in an executive session.
That's why I'm not going into any details, sir.
So the last question, or the last line is a question of that bullet, Gary. It says, could you please provide clarification? Did it clarify it for you?
Yes, I'm satisfied. We're going to cut 4 deputy sheriff's positions if we move forward with this budget. Yes, sir.
That we're accepting the sheriff's offer, okay.
So next bullet.
Robin's hands up.
Excuse me,
Yeah, go ahead, Robin.
before you move forward, I just want to note that if you look at attachment C to this resolution, that is position control, those are the actions that the board is taking regarding positions, and neither the deputy sheriffs nor the corrections deputies are on your position control as positions to be eliminated. The sheriff has proposed reducing these positions in his budget, but the board is not eliminating them.
Comment, sir?
Thank you. Sure.
And follow up to that, it all has to do with revenue. We control the revenue, who gets what, and by moving forward with this budget, the end result is there'll be 4 less deputy sheriffs funded. Whether or not they're removed from a job position with this resolution, I'm glad they're not on there, because maybe somebody will win the lottery and donate the money to us, and then we'll be able to hire them, I guess, right away. So that's fine. I'm just pointing out that if this budget moves forward, the end result is 4 fewer deputy sheriffs. That's it.
Ready to move on to the next bullet. Thank you. By reducing all Thurston County elected offices budget this late year, we're placing them in a jeopardy of personal financial responsibility under RCW 36.40.130. And I believe this particular RCW has been standing in the responsibility of elected officers, elected officials, as well as department directors to stay within their means of the approved budgets by the Board of County Commissioners. That has not changed. And following up on that is, I asked these questions in light of our discussion last week of whether to cover the Sheriff Isnaza's recall issue. Any comments on that? I really don't have any follow-up on that.
Sir, do I have?
Yeah.
Okay. And I make that comment because of RCW 3640.130, which refers to any elected official going over budget. We don't have to cover that budget. Now, we've always covered it, is my understanding in the past, but the reason I put in there, in light of our conversation last week, when we decided to cover initially the representation of the sheriff, it was questionable whether we were going to do any more than that. And so I guess if this board feels that they want to change past precedents and an elected office goes over budget, I guess we could change past precedents and not fill the void. And in that case, that individual elected official would have to do that. And I think that applies to department directors as well. Anyway, I just bring that up so that the other elected officials in Thurston County know that there's a potential they might be in jeopardy if they are not able to meet their mandates. And it looks like the court's throwing something in the mix here about discretion. And do you have discretion to do or don't do certain things? So I just use that as an example to bring that forward for the other elected officials to be aware. That's all.
Commissioner Menser, anything?
I don't see the connection between these two issues, but I don't know how the recall has anything to do with the thing within your budget.
I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
Nick,
Thank you.
bullet states the Commissioner's Office responsible for oversight of approximately $200 million in the county's budget. All other elected offices are responsible for approximately $100 million. I feel asking the other elected officials to provide funding cuts in placing too much responsibility on them, give the Commissioner's office is responsible for twice as much funding as they are. Can the proposed budget amendment reductions for other elected offices be listed separately from those included in the Commissioner's office so we can discuss them with that in mind? I believe Commissioner Edwards already elaborated on $200 million versus $100 million. And as a result of this item, is I drafted a amendment number 3 that I will cover with you in a few minutes.
Okay. Anything?
No, sir.
Commissioner Menser, anything on that?
No.
I do. I just want to ask Robin or you, Romero, relative to this this bullet point, and Commissioner Edwards mentioned on a couple bullet points up that we, the BoCC, are skating. Are we skating with regard to our budget reduction in our office?
No, because on the proposed budget, the Commissioner's office also is being asked to reduce the budget accordingly. If that was you asking.
The same percentage, the same amount?
It's proportionally the same percentage, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I would also clarify that the Board of County Commissioners are responsible for the entire $300 million county budget.
Well, I would add that if we were skating, or the perception of we're skating, that needs to be addressed. If not the perception, but the actual factual data to back it up. If we're skating, that's not acceptable to me. But if we're not, then I'm okay with it, if it's proportional.
Can I comment?
Yeah.
I guess what I was referring to there is others that we're asking for the cuts get half the amount of money that the commissioners oversee as a general course of business. That's all.
Okay. Thank you.
Next bullet, when will the discussion take place regarding the potential of ongoing back to an annual budget versus a biennial budget? This conversation is scheduled to have with the board this coming Thursday.
Thank you.
And last bullet, I am not certain the Board of County Commissioners will be prepared to act on the draft resolution for the budget amendment number 4 during the August 4th Commissioners meeting. I will therefore suggest the second to the last whereas on page 2 to be amended as read. And that's what I have on your resolution. There whereas, and that is the second to the last whereas on page 2. It states the Board of County Commissioners is scheduled meeting to be held after the public hearing on August 4th, at which time the resolution adopting the revised appropriations and expenditures will be adopted. Commissioner Edwards suggesting to change will be adopted with will be considered for adoption. And we can change that if that is there.
Wasn't the public hearing, why does it say the public hearing's August 4th?
Yeah, we need to change that, yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Was that something in mind?
Yeah.
No, in the resolution.
Oh, okay.
So Elizabeth asked for this change in the resolution, and it does not say that the public hearing was held on August 4th.
Oh, yeah.
It said that the adoption will occur on August 4th.
That's how it reads, yeah.
And what the RCW states regarding the notice is that it specifically says the date of the meeting at which the supplemental appropriations resolution will be adopted. So the language in the resolution follows the language in the law.
I have to disagree that it doesn't say that the public hearing, I mean, it may be a matter of shifting the language and changing the comma, but the way it's drafted, it definitely says the public hearing was on August 4th. So you'd have to change it to say, whereas the Board of County Commissioners scheduled a meeting on August 4th, 2020, to be held after the public hearing, at which time, but you can't say to be held after the public hearing on August 4th, comma. You are clearly stating that the public hearing was on August 4th.
And I like the fourth whereas down on page 2, or the fourth whereas up from page 2, says that the Board of County Commissioners desired to hold a public hearing before the board takes such action, even though such a public hearing is not required. I like that that's in there. Thank you.
Or actually a cleaner revision is just to add a comma after hearing. To be held after the public hearing, comma, on August 4th. The meeting to be held after the public hearing on August 4th. That would get us there.
Okay,
Just wanted to add a comma.
we can add that,
Certainly
absolutely.
do that.
Okay.
And also for your considerations to change the last word of that whereas from adopted to consider for adoption. And I think that's appropriate.
That is the part, though, that is following state law.
That will be adopted.
Yes, will be adopted is what the state law says.
I guess what Commissioner Edwards, if I may paraphrase that comment, Commissioner, is that this afternoon, the board could choose not to adopt. And I think that's within their purview. And I think that's probably what Commissioner Edwards was stating to me.
I do understand what Commissioner Edwards is saying.
Preference?
I'm also saying
The
what
definition
law-
of is, I guess that's where we're at.
If we adopt it, then it's adopted.
Yes, and if you don't, it's not.
It's not.
So
What's it gonna be?
what I'm hearing, they will leave it as is? I'm just looking for the boards based on what you've heard.
But you want considered to be adopted? Or that
I just thought that was,
Consider for adoption.
I thought that was more appropriate is all. I'm not too concerned about that as I am about the whole budget process. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, considered sounds good to me. Considered for adoption, because we are considering it for adoption. And it will or won't be.
You heard the argument. I'm just looking for direction from the board.
I'm okay with the change if Elizabeth doesn't pipe up and say that that's going to cause some kind of problem for us. And I think I see her on the call.
I do too.
Yeah, so Elizabeth?
There he is.
Hey. Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm fine with the change.
Okay, it's fine with me.
Okay, so on that particular whereas, which is the second to the last, we'll add a comma after the words public hearing, and change the word adopted at the end of the whereas with considered for adoption. Okay. And that covers Commissioner Edwards' memo that he submitted to me yesterday. Now, I would like to walk you through to the next attachments that you have. And
Could I have one comment, sir?
Yeah.
Chair?
Yeah.
In reference to this, the public might be wondering, well, why didn't I just talk this over with my seatmates? I want to make sure, and this portion of my memo was missed, and so I would just like to point out the last sentence of that particular
of the opening paragraph?
well, yeah.
Yeah.
Where I am prevented from discussing this issue with my seatmates under the Open Publics Meeting Act. And that is why I submitted this memo in the first place. We received all this budget information on Friday with the idea of reviewing it over the weekend and then coming back into session at our first board meeting, which was today. And so I'm not allowed to go commissioner to commissioner and talk about it, or to even give them written material of my concerns. So that's what brought this all about. And the public should be made aware that this wasn't some kind of a shenanigan. This was trying to meet the letter of the law on how we are required to do business. So I just wanted to explain that.
Romero, did this get emailed to the commissioners? Commissioner Edwards' memo, did it get emailed to us at all?
No, it was directed to me, and I'm addressing this with you today.
Okay, I was in Zoom all day and on the phone from my house. I didn't come into the courthouse. And I see this is dated yesterday, so that's why I'm seeing it for the first time. I'm sure Commissioner Menser is. There's good discussion.
Yeah, okay.
But it's kind of like last minute as well.
But
thank you.
A lot of what we do seems to be the last minute. We're forced to do certain things because of that.
And we can't, and we don't talk to each other.
That's right. Yeah.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I think it's, well, I mean, it's got a lot of good information and explanation of Commissioner Edwards' position, so I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you, sir. That takes us to item number.
No, before you go.
Yeah.
Sorry. We need to go through, and I'd like to highlight the process for this afternoon. And I'd like to walk you through to the proposed amendments the staff has drafted based on the conversations that we had with the board. For your consideration, you have an action to move to approve the resolution adopted the budget amendment number 4, including attachments A, B, and C. At that point, when you introduce the motion, you will consider to ask for a second. And at that point is when you exercise your discussion. During the discussion, we have prepared for you, based on what we've heard from the board, 4 potential amendments. Then I'm going to walk you through the 4 proposed amendments, and I will ask who would like to sponsor that amendment so they can introduce. If that amendment gets a second, then the board will vote on that amendment. And at the end, if the motion will be adopted as amended by the board. Is that clear in terms of the process?
Yep.
I would ask, where is my amendment on that, sir?
That's amendment number 3.
Number 3. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So the first amendment, this is related to, and reads, move to amend resolution 15915, 2019-2020, budget amendment number 4, but removing position number 0315-24-R-01252, a legal assistant position in public defense, from eliminated vacant positions listed on attachment C, and add 1 FTE in public defense in attachment A. You heard from Office of Public Defense making an argument they have the ability to buy back that position, and that is the purpose of that amendment based on the public testimony. So I believe the board is interested in moving forward with this amendment, so I will ask who would like to sponsor that by introducing the motion.
I will.
Okay, thank you. Amendment number 4, and this is related to the funding of climate action initiative. The motion reads as follows. Move to amend resolution 15915, 2019-2020, budget amendment 4 by adding $37,500 general fund for the clean energy initiative to the appropriation of the non-departmental in attachment A and B, on the condition financial participation of other jurisdictions in Thurston County totals at least $75,000. And again, I believe that was the board decision last Friday. I'd like to confirm that motion If there's any revisions, let me know. And if okay, I would like to see who would like to sponsor that this afternoon.
I'll raise it as written.
And Commissioner Edwards would like
Sure.
to sponsor that?
Yeah.
Okay. Budget resolution number 3, and this is eliminate budget reductions affecting all elected offices. The motion reads as follows. Move to amend resolution 15915 to 2019-2020 budget amendment 4 by eliminating proposed budget reductions affecting all elected offices. I tend to probably assume the Commissioner Edwards will sponsor that amendment.
Yes, sir.
What will that cost us, Robin?
Fair amount.
You're muted. That's fine.
I would have to look that up. I don't have that number offhand. I'll see if I can do that.
Thank you. Will that take a while?
It'll take a few minutes. You should continue on.
Yeah, go ahead. The budget number, amendment number 4.
And amendment number 4 is a technical corrections to the Corona relief funding, TRF. The motion reads as follows. Move to amend resolution 15915, 2019-2020 budget amendment number 4 by removing duplicated revenue and expenditure coronavirus relief funds, CRF, from emergency management in the amount of $144,802 general fund, and non-departmental in the amount of $30,000 general fund on attachments A and B. And again, this is a technical correction, and I would like to see who would like to sponsor that motion.
That's fine. I will.
Okay, thank you. And that's all I have for you related to this item.
Do you want to, you still need more time? I can give it to you. We have just a little bit more on the budget or on the agenda. We'll have to come back to that piece then, okay?
Where are we?
Amendment number 3.
Number 4.
Number 3, the costs that'll be
Oh,
impacted.
you asked for the cost. You like to add that on the language?
I don't want to add, I want to know what the cost is, because I may second, I may not, or I may vote for.
No,
or against.
that's this afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to vote on the amendments this morning.
Okay, that's fine then. So you have plenty of time then, Robin.
No, that's not the intent. The intent is, again, the process is you introduce the motion, approving the budget amendment number 4, and during the discussions where you introduce those amendments.
Okay,
And those amendments, if they get a second, then you will vote. If not, that amendment doesn't go through it.
I get that. I just want to know what the cost and financial impact is going to be.
No. I just want to clarify that I'm not asking for the board to vote on the amendments this morning.
Oh, I know that. I got that. Thank you.
So Amendment 3 just wipes away all of the budget reductions for elected offices and keeps them all for departments. That's what it's trying to do.
That is my understanding of Commissioner Edwards, what he would like to do.
Is it?
That would be the effect of it, although I have concerns with those other offices, public defense, and there's one more in there. There's several that are not elected offices that are dramatically impacting our ability in the criminal justice component, but they're not elected offices. So maybe we might have to deal with that at a later date. If my amendment does pass, we'll see.
Okay, so we can move on then with the rest of Agenda 7. We do the wrap up with our work sessions and committee assignments and such. And then about 3 o'clock, we move into a public hearing.
Yeah, this is a follow-up to the interim ordinance that you passed. That's number 15905, which is adopted June 16, 2020, related to the flood hazard areas. And that was in response to the request from FEMA, they added a couple of technical definitions to the Thurston County Code. During that interim resolution, it was expected that within a certain period of time, you need to hold a public hearing to reaffirm the interim resolution, and I believe, interim ordinance, and I believe that is the intent of this afternoon public hearing. And for your consideration this afternoon, you have two motions, one to close the public hearing, and depending on the public testimony that you might receive for your consideration will be to affirm the interim ordinance number 15905. And Jeremy Davis is here if you have any questions related to the public hearing.
Jeremy, do you have anything to add to what Romero said?
Good morning. So just so the commissioners are aware, we have received one written public comment for this afternoon's public hearing. This is from Mr. Howard Glassstetter. We reviewed the public comment and found that it pertains to the Nisqually Valley flooding that occurred in February, as well as the Tacoma Power actions with their two dams. CTED staff has forwarded this comment on to the Emergency Management Department for their review. There do not appear to be any direct comments to the regulations that were adopted by ordinance number 15905 in June.
Okay, questions or comments?
No, sir.
Forwarding this, as well as all other public comments after 12 o'clock.
Thank you. Commissioner Menser, any comments or questions of Jeremy?
No.
Great, thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you. See you later.
Yes, you will. So this concludes the BoCC agenda, draft agenda for this afternoon and the public hearing. We've been at this for an hour and 40 minutes. We're gonna, in deference to staff, we're gonna take a break. We have several other agenda items to get through. So let's make this a 10-minute break, 10 minutes. We'll be back at 10:50, 10:50. Thank you. We're in recess. Because every once in a while I see you guys freezing up.
You're on, Commissioner.
I'm what?
You're on. We're live.
Live.
Hold on.
I think he's freezing up now.
All right, welcome back. It's still August 4th, 2020, and we're continuing on with the agenda setting work session. And we're going to review next Tuesday, August 11th, Florida County Commissioners meeting. And we'll call the meeting to order about 2 o'clock with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice Chair Commissioner Menser. Then approval of the agenda and the board meeting minutes from this afternoon. An opportunity for the public to address the board, and we'll wait and see what comes of that at that time. The county manager will follow up with any citizen issues that they have. And then agenda item number 3 is consent items A, B, and C. The first one is execute license and indemnity agreement.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right for me. Thank you, commissioners. This is pursuant section 13.56040 of the Thurston County Code. And this is a licensing agreement to authorize a private citizen to use a private line crossing a county roadway. And this is a little bit similar to a franchise agreement that you have with actually a company provider. In this case, it's just a citizen who needs to cross the county roadway to service their property. In this particular case is a licensing agreement with Mr. Tim and Ms. Deborah Vilm. They have applied for a utility permit to construct a private water and septic lines on the Summit Lake Shore Road at a milepost just about 1.8 to provide water from Summit Lake to an upper lot they currently own. So they own a lower lot and they own an upper lot. They would like to bring water and sewer lines to the upper lot. They both own. And again, this is a consideration to have a license and agreement. This license and agreement includes that in the event the county needs to do any road work and those lines needs to be relocated or removed, it will be at the cost of the property owner. I believe Craig Sisson is here. If you have any particular questions related to this item, and I believe the board has seen similar items in the last couple of years.
I have a question, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. My question is, they're going to dig up the road and cross the road, or are they going to bore under the road?
Most likely on the board.
Do we know the answer to that? I mean, does this cover either or?
Do you know that, Craig? What the means and methods they will plan to utilize to cross the road?
So I'm not quite sure which one this is about. I was here for the Olympic pipeline. Is that what I couldn't hear in the beginning if this was the Olympic pipeline or if this is a different one?
Oh, I have, this is a different one. How about if I get the answer for you next week?
Okay, well, let me explain my question, I guess, why I'm asking that question. Because we're always looking to protect water quality up at Summit Lake. And if somebody is going to put a ditch across that road anyway, is there any chance that we maybe could partner with them? I don't know how to go about it, but so that we maybe could put a vacant pipe in that same ditch. So just in case someone in the future has a similar situation and it's in close proximity, possibly they could utilize that same pipe without digging up the road again. For an example, if they wanted to tight line sewage to another property away from the lake to protect water quality, they might come up to the county road right away, down the right of way, then not have to put a new pipe in, but go in through that existing pipe, if we put one in, or a culvert, whatever you want to refer to it as, and cross the road, go down to where they would be going up or down the road to maybe another property, or maybe someone will come up with the ability to have property up there that would accept drain field effluent so that we could help citizens attain better water quality up there. That's the only reason I asked the question. If we're gonna dig anyway, is it worth throwing a pipe in there? Very, very minimal cost, I'm sure, to do something like that.
So the county will not be digging, most likely will be boring, but I'll confirm that with, for you for next week.
Okay.
That's a reasonable question. I like that.
Yeah. Well,
Commissioners Romero, this is Craig Sisson. This was an agenda with Todd Mason, and I just got him on the phone. He's trying to jump in right now so he can answer your questions. If you wanted to answer now, or you could find that out
I'd like to know, I mean, just so.
maybe we can move, maybe we
Get him
can
on.
move on to the next items until he can join the meeting.
I had questions on this item. So.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I haven't seen this before, anything like this. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
do we have other similar agreements with upper lots around Summit Lake? Is this
Yeah,
common?
yes, and mainly on Summit Lake is what we have seen in the past, is when property owners own property, the same owner on both sides of the roadway. And they just like to provide utilities to the other lot they own. In this case, is the upper lot. And how it goes, because the upper lot may not be permitted for a septic, so they extend the existing septic system they have, and I believe they do have capacity on the lower lot, so they allow them to utilize the upper lot as well.
Oh, sorry.
We have seen in other locations as well, similar. Usually it's not for any public use. It's property owners who own property on both sides of the roadway. And that's pretty much what, at least my experience is related to this license and agreement.
So if they get permission to chop up the road, then how do we ensure that the road is properly reassembled to our safety standards and quality standards? Are we involved in inspection and stuff like that?
Right. Chances are they will not. In the past, they have bored the roadway, so they don't have an open cut. Because the pipes are so small, there really doesn't make any sense to open the roadway. And I would assume in this case is the same. They're just planning to bore under the roadway without affecting the road itself. But Todd is here. Maybe he can correct me if he knows how they're planning to cross the road. Open cut versus boring.
Go ahead, Todd. Thank you.
Okay. Hey, I apologize for the confusion. Just joined in. So this is out at Summit Lake. I am.
Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, will you introduce yourself? Thank you.
Pardon?
Introduce yourself, sir.
Oh yes, Todd Mason, and Development Review Manager for Public Works.
Thank you.
So the applicant on this is crossing the road for two reasons. Water going one direction from the lake up to the property above shoreline, and the other is to septic, because the drain field needs to be on the upper piece of property, so to provide the land to be able to pump the septic up. So pretty common that we have these agreements with the landowners when they cross public right of way. And I just joined in and I heard Romero mentioning about boring or open cut. Is that what the question is?
Yeah, whether the activities will be the crossing the road, open cut, or boring. So how they're going to be implementing this crossing? Do you know that?
I don't know. In fact, I can't even assume at this point.
Okay, so we can probably get answer to that question for next Tuesday. That will
Absolutely.
Be yeah.
Absolutely.
Because I believe that is some of the concerns the board has, is if the means and methods to cross the road is to have an open cut on the roadway, how are we going to be assuring that in fact we're going to have a good restoration on the roadway if that is the case?
Sure. Yep. Okay.
So Todd, can you answer Gary's question? And I don't know, you probably not have heard it. Gary, you want to
I didn't. So, yeah.
Go ahead,
Well,
Gary.
I believe, if I may,
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
is Commissioner Edwards is stating what will be the opportunity to partner with other property owners that may be taking advantage of this crossing by adding maybe another pipes under the roadway for future use for other property owners. Is that?
Roughly, I mean, just trying to give them an opportunity to get any effluent away from Summit Lake for water quality issues.
And I can connect with you, Todd, later on to clarify that question.
Okay, so what I'm understanding there is a possible, maybe like a larger casing that could be utilized by other property owners.
Possibly, yes.
Okay, yeah, we can look into that. So, okay.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Todd, for joining in.
Thank you. And again, my apologies.
No worries. Commissioner Menser, do you have anything further?
No, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Craig. That's 3A. 3B on the consent calendar for next week, the 11th, is the auditor's voucher request to cancel outstanding warrants.
Yeah, this is every by RCW 36.22.100 and 39.56040. The auditor's office, financial services division, goes through the process of retiring outstanding warrants. They are a year old plus. And for your consideration is those warrants, they're over a year old, a total of 298 outstanding warrants, total of $7,328.24. I believe the majority of those warrants are related for mileage. They have been given to jury summons who have been attended here at the county. So we pay for those mileage via check, and some of those citizens who have served on a jury duty, they don't cancel those checks, and every year we retire those warrants. In this case is, again, 298 warrants, a total of $7,328.24.
Any questions, commissioners?
No, sir.
No? Nothing for you, Ty?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead. You're okay? Or do you have a question?
I'm okay. No question.
Okay. 3C is the financial services voucher list, and we'll cover that when we get there. That takes us to agenda item number 4, Public Works, setting a public hearing to consider non-exclusive franchise.
Yeah, for your consideration, Commissioners, for you to set a public hearing for September 8, 2020 at 3 in the afternoon in this room 280, Building 1 at Thurston County Courthouse, for you to receive public testimony related to a franchise application. And as you may recall, the process in franchise applications is you need to hold a public hearing to receive public testimony for you to accept an application, and then you will see another item coming later on, depending on the public testimony, for you to approve a franchise agreement. In this particular case is a franchise agreement with the Olympic Pipeline Company, and this is a reissuance of that franchise agreement. The initial franchise agreement was put in place in 1964 and elapsed in 2016. Since this has been brought to their attention, and the staff has been negotiating with the Olympic Pipeline, and this is the result of that negotiations for you to consider their application. They cross the Olympic Pipeline, as you know, is a large utility. They provide and maintains liquid petroleum products using this pipeline across the county. And they cross many roads, county roads, and this is just authorizing that franchise agreement. Craig Sisson is here to answer any questions related to these particular items, if I missed my high-level review.
Craig, do you have anything to add to Romero's presentation?
I do not.
Okay. Commissioner Menser, any questions, comments?
What kind of liquid petroleum products are crossing Thurston County right now?
I think they are using a variety. Is natural gas. They have gasoline, any related petroleum. Yes, quite a bit of active pipeline that we have.
And it's the same agreement since 1964? It's been in use since that time?
Well, the agreement was 50 years old, so the first one was 1964, which lapsed in, I believe, in 2016. Since then, we have engaged with them to start negotiating the new franchise agreement. And as a result of that, they have applied for an application. So this is the first step in the process.
Does this involve any kind of expansion of what's been going on in the past, or is this just sort of re-upping the status quo?
So I believe includes all of the above, is for them to construct, operate, and maintain the pipelines that we have. And they have already have secured easements across the properties. And this is only when they crosses county roadways. So their system includes private easements that goes all the way from Canada and goes all the way south to, wherever. And that is really what we govern is when they cross county roadways. We're not governed anything outside of the county's right of way because they have private easements in which they operate at.
My question though was, are they looking to build new infrastructure or expand, or is this mainly about just renewing a expired agreement?
I believe this franchise agreement includes everything for them to construct new and operate and maintain what they have.
So the franchise agreement does allow them to construct, operate, and maintain. It is my impression in conversations with Olympic Pipeline that they are not expanding their capacity at this point in time, but this will give them the ability within the next 10 years, if there is such a thing. They obviously would have to go through the permitting processes. This just allows them to be within the right of way. They would have to go through a full permitting process if they wanted to expand their pipeline.
Is that Craig Sisson?
Yeah, sorry, Craig Sisson, Real Estate Services Manager for Public Works.
Thank you, Craig. Anything further, Commissioner Menser?
Not today.
Okay, Commissioner Edwards, anything?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Commissioners.
To agenda item number 5, Public Health and Social Services, approval of an eviction prevention contract with the Community Action Council of Lewis, Mason, and Thurston counties.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. You reviewed this item on a couple of occasions. You discussed this morning with Keely Merno as well, and this is related to a grant the county has received through the CARES money and through the Department of Commerce for $3,187,179 for eviction prevention activities. Keely briefly mentioned one of the key elements of the objectives of this particular funding. One is to prevent evictions, 2, target limited resources to people most likely to become homeless after eviction, 3, target limited resources to people most likely to suffer severe health consequences as a result of eviction, 4, promote racial equity in who is served with focus on equity for groups of people who historically have not been provided equitable access to rent assistance. Black or African Americans, American Indians, Alaska Natives. And 5, promote equity in who is served. This is an agreement for the Community Action Council to manage this agreement. And again, it's for $3.5 million, and it will provide assistance, rental assistance for Mason and Thurston counties. Last week, you had 2 questions. And whether this rental assistance program can take all the way, can be served those citizens in need through December 31st, 2020. I believe Commissioner Hutchins stated that, and I believe that is correct, what you stated. And the second question was from Commissioner Edwards, related to if this assistance is going to be given directly to those individuals who have requested. The answer is no. It's going to be the landlords will receive that money, and the landlords will have to certify that in fact has been providing rental assistance to those individuals involved. So there is not, citizens will not, who are in need will not be receiving a check, perhaps. And I believe Tom Webster is here to answer any additional questions the board may have.
Welcome, Tom. Do you have anything to add before we get to questions?
Yes, just a clarification. Once again, Tom Webster, the manager of the Office of Housing and Homeless Prevention and Public Health and Social Services. So I'm not sure if I heard Ramiro correctly, but just to clarify that the contract with Community Action Council will only be for services in Thurston County. So this is for rent assistance for Thurston County residents only.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. Thank you.
That will need to change that then. Well, no, maybe not. Yeah, the contract with Thurston only, but it's the description says the Community Action Council of Lewis, Mason, and Thurston County. Is that their title?
That's their full name of the organization.
Okay,
they serve all three of those counties, but this contract, they will only provide services to residents of Thurston County.
Thanks for the clarification, Tom. I appreciate it.
Perfect, thank you. Commissioner Edwards, anything?
No, sir.
And Commissioner Mincer?
Nothing, thank you.
Tom, just a byline. Thank you for all the abundance of information you provided over the last several days. I took care of all my phone calls yesterday and people are okay.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That takes us to the next item. That's our wrap up of the meeting. And then we have a Board of Health meeting, and I'll turn that over to Commissioner Mincer.
Thank you. I know we're behind schedule somewhat, so I'll try to be efficient in going through the Board of Health for August 11th. We do have Shelley Slaughter and Lydia Hodgkinson, clerk of the Board of Health, in case issues come up. But I'm going to tick through this quickly, Shelley. The meeting will be called to order at 3:30. Approval of the agenda will be, and then meeting minutes. We've got, we caught up a whole bunch last time, so we'll just have a few to catch up on here from the last month or so. Opportunity for the public to address the Board of Health. And then consent item will be 3A, acceptance of work session notes. And that will relate to July 7th, 14th, June 17th, and July 22nd. Any questions or comments on any of all of that?
No, sir.
No. Okay, department item number 4 on the agenda is COVID-19 update. Shelley, anything to say there?
No, sir. I will just share with the Board of Health, as will Dr. Abdimalik, a more in-depth COVID-19 update for our monthly Board of Health.
Okay. Department item number 5 on the agenda, race and health equity. Marianne O'Garo is listed, as well as some of our other folks. Shelley, what is this going to cover?
This item is related to a community request to the Board of Health that you received last month, requesting that the Board of Health consider racism as a public health emergency. As a result of those conversations, the board requested additional data and information, and then in our Board of Health Chair check-in, Commissioner Menzer, we discussed that this item would be a good item to cover in our monthly Board of Health meeting. So Marianne O'Garo, a senior epidemiologist, as well as other staff from our department, and Taylor Eduardo from Thurston Thrives will present data and information regarding health inequities in our community related to race and ethnicity.
Questions for Shelley on that item?
No questions. I just think it's a good idea.
No, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, we did have that. My recollection is that the Board of County Commissioners had asked for some staff follow-up on what the possibilities and pros and cons might be on that request, and it'll be a good time to discuss that. So.
Does this work in concert, though, Commissioner, if I may, or Chair?
Yeah.
In concert with the the resolution that we're resurrecting and dusting off about racial equity?
I am not certain. I'm not certain, sir, about that. I know that this was an item that was discussed last month, and the board wanted more information. I believe that is still something that the board may consider after you hear more information in this presentation. I don't know if Ramiro has anything to add on that. Perhaps I may have not been part of some of those other conversations.
The dust off that Commissioner Hutchings may be referring to is we brought up the old Council on Human Rights and Cultural Diversity.
Yeah.
That discussion got deferred to Law and Justice Council, and a subcommittee is being formed to kind of discuss, make a recommendation or have a discussion about next steps, whether or not we would want to revise that Thurston County Code or come up with something else. So I think there's some forthcoming discussion about that piece. This is this item is about Together. I think it was Megan Sullivan from Together who pointed out that King and Pierce counties had done a public health emergency declaration related to race and racism, and suggested that we discuss the idea of that in Thurston County, and the board said maybe. I know some just top level, off the top of our head opinions, and we asked staff to come back with maybe some more meat behind the discussion on that, and I think that's what this item is about.
So perhaps this presentation, or what Mariana Garro has, and she's brilliant when it comes to this stuff, and she's a great presenter, could be given at some time to that Law and Justice Council that's looking into that ordinance that we have.
Perhaps.
Just good background information.
Ramiro, did you have something to add?
No, I think that was on point in terms of the effort that we're going through related to bringing back the Cultural Diversity and Human Rights Council, and really coupled with the subcommittee from the Law and Justice Council. I volunteered to be part of that committee just to make sure that I bring all the thoughts together before I bring a proposed resolution for you. And I just was checking my emails, and the first meeting is yet to be scheduled here shortly. And we'll begin the conversation. I think it's going to be a good conversation. The makeup of the subcommittee includes some citizens. So I'm expecting to have a very robust conversation. And as a result of that will be some good outcomes and feedback that we'll bring back to the board for consideration.
Great, thanks for that update. I hadn't heard that. I saw the initial email asking for volunteers and participants, so I'm glad that that's moving forward.
Yeah.
Anything else on this item?
No,
No, sir. Just would relate or just share with you that Mariana O'Garrow is on the call if you had any further questions or requests for her.
The only thing I'd say is pat her on the back. Good job, Marianne. Thank you so much for what you do for us.
Thank you, Marianne. Okay, item 6 is Board of Health members, health-related activities. And then we'll have a health officer's report from Dr. Abdul Malik. And then we'll have a director's report from Shelley. I think those on the agenda, Lydia, the descriptions are reversed. Health officer says Shelley Slaughter will report. Director's report says Dr. Dimiana. So you can flip-flop those, and then we will adjourn.
Thank you, Commissioner. We will make those changes.
Wow, Commissioner Menser, that was under 10 minutes. I think it was 10, maybe 11.
We got a lot more to cover, so.
Well done. That takes us to proclamations and awards.
Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Shelley. I'm sorry.
Good morning,
I don't think we have any proclamations or awards, or do we?
No, there are no proclamations or awards this week.
Good. Advisory boards and commissions?
There are also no advisory boards or commissions to review this week.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's Amy Davis, the clerk of the board. Thank you, Amy. PIO check-in. We'll start with Megan Porter.
Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. I'm happy to be back this week after serving as the main point of contact last week for the COVID public information response. It was a very busy week, so I'm happy to be back here with you guys. And then you heard Keely talk this morning about the Eviction Rent Assistance Program, or ERAP. I had a conversation with Elisa Sparkman and Tom Webster last week to develop a plan for outreach activities around the ERAP in coordination with the Community Action Council and other support organizations. So those activities are currently being developed. Yesterday, Brian sent the Commissioner's Office staff for review a risk communications plan. The intent of this plan is to ensure that we, as the Commissioner's Office, have a plan to inform the community if there's an emergency that affects our ability to serve the public. The plan is not for countywide emergencies, as that would fall under emergency management, but just for emergencies that potentially affect our office, so such as like a fire in the building or something like that. Yesterday, Commissioner Menser interviewed Dr. Abdumalik to introduce her to the community in a Thurston County update video. That video is slated for release mid-August on our YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as TC Media. It'll be about 10 minutes. And then for the census follow-up, as of Sunday, August 2nd, Thurston County is tied for the 4th highest response rate in the state at 71.6%. In 2010, Thurston County had 68.1%. So good job, Thurston County, keep up responding. Some areas with a response rate lower than 50% may receive an email alert from the Census Bureau with options to self-respond. If you receive that email and have already responded, there is an opt-out option, so you won't continue to receive those emails. Pending any questions, that's all I have.
Commissioner Edwards, anything for Megan?
No, sir.
And Commissioner Menser?
No.
I'm just thrilled to hear that our capital county is so high in the census results. That was 71%?
71.6.
0.6, I forgot the 0.6. Yeah, that's beautiful. Way to go. Does Brian Dominique in the building?
No.
Okay. I'll scratch him up. Megan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Romero, any legislative update?
No, sir.
All right, briefing and public hearings pending.
None, sir.
Woo, that takes us to commissioner items. And the first is prairie habitat permits.
Yeah, this is follow-up to, I believe, your questions, Commissioner Hutchins, when you were having a conversation with the staff related to the submittal of the Habitat Conservation Plan to the United States Fish and Wildlife. And during that conversation, you requested some information related to how many permits in 2019 they have been affected by the lack of having a Habitat Conservation Plan. So I'm going to give you by the numbers. In 2019, the CPED department received 4,331 applications. Out of the 4,331 applications, 730 are those within the prairie habitat designation. Out of the 730 applications that were impacted within the prairie habitat designation, 662 applications were able to be approved through the interim gopher review process. 37 of those were sites where they're found, species were found on those sites, 37. 5 of the 37 were able to process by avoidance of their proposed improvements. So as a result, 32 applications were what we consider to be in limbo, meaning needing a habitat conservation plan of their own. And I believe you know the process to what that is. So in relation to the numbers, the 32 in relation to the 4,331 applications is 0.7%. They are currently somewhat, my words, stuck within the process of not being able to move forward as we know it. And for the viewing public, for those applications who there were found species present during the field visits and they cannot avoid through their proposals, then the option is to wait until the county has a habitat conservation plan, which we already formally submitted, what I consider to be the final draft. If not, the citizens have the option to engage in preparing their own habitat conservation plan, and that process is managed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. I don't want to elaborate too much on that process, as you know, is laborious, lengthy, and cumbersome for our citizens to go through that. And again, that is the intended purpose, is to have a habitat conservation plan. I just want to circle back I believe, on the questions that Commissioner Hutchins had related to this item. And Josh is here to answer any additional questions that you may have.
Well, number one, I would like to say that this is exactly what I was looking for. I mean, right to the penny. And I want the public to realize, putting in perspective, out of 4,331 applications, only 32 are actually in limbo. And I don't care if it's 4,000, 10,000, or 100,000. Those 32 in limbo is very real for those folks, very real. And so I'm advocating for them and working hard for them. But I'm happy to hear what you say. The impact is like 0.7.
0.7% of the overall applications.
That makes me happy, but I'm still unhappy for the 32 that are in limbo. But very happy again, the 30 sites where there were species, 5 were processed via avoidance. And this is really good stuff, good information, but that just indicates the work is yet to be done. But it's not that there's nothing going on in the county because of the habitat. That's not the case. So thank you for that, Josh. Do you have anything to add to Romero's presentation, Josh?
So Joshua Cummings, Director of Community Planning and Economic Development. I would say those were exactly right on with the numbers. If people are doing the math at home, it might not add up exactly, because one of the pieces of numbers that we left out were the ones that are still in review and with consultants. So you'll add up to 730 with the ones that are in review and still working through the process, in case people are wondering. But it was stated earlier in the conversation that these are lives. These are 32 folks that it's not about the quantity as much as it's about these are individuals that are in this process. And it's noted again and again that Thurston County is working on behalf of its citizens with the federal government to try and get a permit for those 32 people to do what they want with their land. So just knowing that we really appreciate the support from the Board of County Commissioners, and that this data is consistent with what we provided back in February, and appreciate your continued support.
Thank you, Josh. Commissioner Edwards, any questions or comments, sir?
No, sir. Josh did a good job laying that out, the manager.
Commissioner Menser?
No.
Nope.
Good info.
Wow. Good job, Josh. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Number 2, hazard pay. Discussion and decision.
Yeah, this is the board decided to have this decision and conversation every month related to issuing hazard pay of 5% to law enforcement, the Sheriff's Office, corrections and the Sheriff's Office, correction deputies, as well as corrections on juvenile, and as well as the security here at the courthouse. Last month, I stated to you that perhaps it might be an issue that perhaps this hazard pay may not be covered by the CARES Act, the Coronavirus Relief Fund. So as a result of that, Brandon Weber, our internal auditor, has gone through this process of assessing, and in fact, that's an eligible item or not. I have attached for your review, not right now. And of his assessment, the bottom line is his recommendation in conclusion is the hazard pay for public safety personnel is allowable cost under the Coronavirus Release Fund. I just want to state that, and also I'd like you to make a decision as to what you want to do for the month of August related to the hazard pay. I'd like to state also the fact that my recommendation continues to be for you not to continue with this 5% hazard pay. I believe it creates unequal standards to the personnel who actually is responding also to the emergencies, such as nurses on isolation and quarantine sites, and also providing testing. in which those individuals and those staff have not been given the opportunity to provide hazard pay. I'll stop there, and you can exercise your discussion. And also, I would like for you to make your decision for the month of August.
So may I just ask a clarification question before we move into the other commissioners, and that is, you bring up an excellent point, Romero, that there are other employees that, for example, are nurse practitioners that are exposed, and they're going into the homes, the nurse family partnership, and those folks. If we were to extend it, and I know that's not where you're going, but if we were to extend hazard pay to these folks, it would also presumably be covered by the CRF funds. I'm asking you to make a decision, but is that reasonable to expect, do you think?
That is correct.
Okay.
Based on the assessment.
Okay. Commissioner Menser, comments or questions regarding this? Now, this is specifically regarding the hazard pay for.
Yep. And I'm just bringing back every month.
Yep.
No, I've been heard on this many times, and I oppose it for the reasons that the county manager outlined.
Okay.
As well as budget considerations.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, I do have some, I guess, a statement more than anything else. Now more than ever, I am more adamant in my support for law enforcement than I might have been last month, mainly because of all the unreasonable and unnecessary critique that law enforcement now finds itself under. I want to do everything I can to support our folks out there in uniform, our first responders doing everything they can possibly do to make our community safer. And as to others, I would also apply this to nurses and other folks that are first responders. I'm all for making sure we're giving adequate recognition for everyone that we can recognize. So I'm not making a specific recommendation, but someone here said something about our nurse practitioners, for an example. If they're exposed in similar situations that are potentially hazardous, I would very much entertain giving them the same type of recognition. We expect a lot of our nurse practitioners that are going out, and other folks maybe in the health department. I really don't know, but if someone came back to me with a recommendation, I'd certainly consider it. But for now, I would say continue on with month by month until we come to a completion on this, trying to get this virus under control.
Thank you for that. I would also echo, I would love to hear from some other employee groups that are actually dealing or very much potentially dealing with exposure. I just want to limit my comment only because everybody's potentially liable or exposed, everybody, even within a family. But if there are folks that are increasingly jeopardized or in a compromising situation as a part of their duties, I would consider it, especially knowing that we're getting some reimbursement for that. And that made me feel comforted, knowing we're getting reimbursed at the auditor's report that Brandon Weber, internal auditor, said that it's applicable. That made me happy, but I didn't vote for the hazard pay for the sheriff's deputies and corrections and security and deputy coroner staff based on that. So I still stand with my my decision to continue on with the hazard pay, knowing full well I respect Commissioner Menser and County Manager Romero Chavez in his due diligence in protecting the county and managing the budget and looking at a big picture. And with respect to them, I vote to still continue it on.
Okay, thank you. I will bring this item at the end of August.
Thank you, sir. Was there any public testimony to follow up on?
Yeah, I just got a quick, Mr. Perez submitted an email yesterday to you in which he suggested some amendments to the resolution that you might be considering related to the budget amendment number 4. And I'd just like to bring this to your attention. And if you like to entertain those amendments, we will draft language. And I would like to, if that is the case, then I will look for a sponsor of those amendments.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any druthers?
Well, is this something that we just got, right?
Yesterday.
You'll have to go through them for me to.
What was that, Commissioner? I didn't hear.
I said you'll have to go through them. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I got
right?
multiple communications from Mr. Pettit. One of them was addressed directly to me, and I reviewed that carefully. There was a couple of others that I didn't review as carefully. So if you want my opinion, we'll have to go through them.
Yep. So let me read the whereases that he's proposing. Then hopefully I can go through. We do have an executive session. The first whereas, the ending general expense fund balance was underestimated for 2019, having estimated to be $10,300,162. But upon closing, the year increased by $10,190,000 to establish a beginning 2020 general expense fund balance of $20,490,162.
Can we have questions on these?
Yeah, I'm just, how many are there? How many suggestions are there?
1, 2, 3, 4, 6.
Well,
Go ahead, Gary.
My question is to the county manager, are these figures correct? Are we in that situation now where we ended up with a $20 million fund balance in 2020, as stated? Because that goes to my concern about this not being an emergency. So I'm very interested in that.
I wasn't prepared to debate this every single item today, Commissioners.
No. Oh, you were not? Okay.
So really,
how about our county financial officer?
We have addressed every single item on this particular and many occasions in front of the board.
Yeah.
And I really don't want to get to the point of arguing again the validity or not, because I don't think it's just to have this in a public setting. My responsibility is for you to bring this to your attention, whether you like to bring those amendments to the resolution this afternoon or not. Really, I don't think it's just for me to have an argument today in terms of the validity of each of those whereases.
Okay.
So I would just like to say, almost like Commissioner Edwards says, I don't like to be rushed into this, and without looking at this, I am not interested in entertaining these this afternoon. When we have a public hearing, Mr. Peck can bring these to the public hearing, or whatever his comment might be. Commissioner Menser?
Now that I've opened the document and I did look at this, I've forgotten, and I am not in favor of including these suggestions.
Okay, could I have a question?
Certainly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess my question would be, when something of this importance is brought to this board, when we're deciding how we're going to handle a budget, I mean, I've got other considerations as well. And I think in June, we did budget amendment 3. So when we did budget amendment 3, is that the new budget that we're now referring to in budget amendment 4 and asking all the current expense people to cut from June to the end of the year, or is it from January to the end of the year? And to me, these figures, I mean, if they're true, that's all I want to know. I mean, are they close to being true? Are they in some fashion? Are they pretty close? I'm not asking to the penny, but I'd like to know within $1 million, are we pretty close here? And maybe our financial person, Robin, could at least say, well, that is right, or no, that's wrong. I don't know, I don't know how much information she's got on hand. Commissioner Hutchings asked for particular information this morning. I guess we're going to be discussing that later, but Robin, did you come up with that number yet?
Yes, Commissioner, if the Amendment 4 were to be adjusted to remove all reductions to elected official office budgets, then the amount of the budget reduction for the general fund would be decreased from $2.9 million to approximately $600,000. The reductions to general or elected official offices in the general fund is approximately 2.4 million. Then in other funds, the budget, if all references to elected officials were removed, the budget would actually be increased by, let's see, instead of a reduction of 1.2 million in other funds, it would be it would still be a reduction of 1.2 million. The difference would be about 13,000.
Yeah. And would that be, would we have an ending fund balance as indicated here by Mr. Pettit? Is that right?
I have not looked at Mr. Pettit's suggestion until just a few minutes ago. I saw it for the first time. The beginning fund balance for 2020 is roughly $20 million. I would have to look to see if this exact number were accurate. The ending fund balance is yet to be determined.
Well, granted, it is yet to be determined because we're not through the end of the year yet. But if we started off with a $20 million fund balance at the beginning of the year, how can we be claiming that we're in some kind of an emergent situation? That's what I'm trying to get that square with the letter that I brought in concern with this budget amendment 4. I don't get it. So you're confirming that we did have 20 million.
Yeah, and that has
been in every document that I have given to you over the last 4 months.
And with due respect, this conversation has been part of your assessment for the last 3 months in terms of the $20 million ending fund balance at the beginning fund balance of 2020. And that figure was added on the model of all the different assumptions that Robin has walked you through on every single occasion. So, and again, I'll stop there. So
but you're bringing due diligence to a member of the public that brought an issue to the board, and we have 2 board members that aren't interested in continuing on with this for this afternoon. And Commissioner Edwards, if you need further information about the numbers and such with Robin, perhaps you can get that offline.
Okay.
But we need to press on.
Okay.
Thank you.
But not to say that Commissioner Edwards may want to bring yet another amendment this afternoon if he wishes to, because that's part of his prerogative.
No, I mean, I'll probably be doing just what I've indicated here so far. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you all for that discussion. We're going to move into an executive session now.
Yes, sir.
And this is pursuant to RCW 42.30.110 subsection 1 subsection I to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency, litigation or potential litigation, sheriff's legal representation. Commissioner action may follow, and this is expected to last about 20 minutes, I would think. What do you think, Romero? 20?
Probably, yes.
Okay.
Brandon, can you get off of the
Yeah, we'll ask people to get off Zoom and off the conference call. Thank you kindly.